Greetings everyone, my name is Gigi and this is Let's Build, where now I build a Lego set timed to different media and talk about the facts concerning the topic of the build. Today's build is the Lego Derby Trotter versus Robot Unicorn Attack. All footage I'm using is for science, educational, and research purposes. My content is transformative and protected under fair use. All footage is time-lapse with commentary. I apologize in advance for pronouncing any names or places incorrectly. If you want to help me get the attention of LEGO, please give me a like and subscribe. Today's going to be a shorter video since retro sets usually don't have that much information published. This is also week 8 of braces, so you'll have to excuse my voice. Specifications of the LEGO set. 6355 Derby Trotter is a town-themed set released in 1989. Also known as Stable and Paddock, this set includes a white horse stable with a red roof, a brown horse, a two-wheeled sulky, and a jockey minifigure. The minifigure wears a plain red torso and black riding hat, using the hard hat mold in black. This set was the very first to contain a brown horse with a black mane. This variation did not appear in any other sets until 1992. The riding hats were usually black versions of the red, blue, and white hard hats used by the construction worker minifigs. This was one of only a few town sets that involved equestrian sports, a theme that was featured more heavily in Paradisa. Set contains 141 pieces. Harness racing, or sport of driving at speed a standardbred horse pulling a light, two-wheeled vehicle called sulky. Harness racing horses are of two kinds, differentiated by gait. The pacing horse, or pacer, moves both legs on one side of its body at the same time, while the trotting horse, or trotter, strides with its left front and right rear leg moving forward simultaneously, then right front and left rear together. Harness racing is one of the two main kinds of horse racing. The other involves horse racing astride in the saddle. Early records of the anecdotes of harness racing are ancient. Assyrian kings of 1500 BCE maintained elaborate stables, and professional trainers for horses used to draw chariots, originally used in war, but soon also used in the sport of hunting. Homer's account of the chariot race in the Iliad is later. There were 4 horse-hitch chariot races in the Olympic Games of the 7th century BCE, and races with 2 horse hitches earlier. Horses were locally bred with others from Asia Minor and northern Africa. Chariot racing came into great prominence as a sport after its transfer to Rome. Public records were kept of the bloodlines of the horses. Exceptional horses were buried with a stela giving their records. One had 1,300 first-place victories, 88 second places, and 37 third places. A perfect site for chariot racing was found between the Palatine and Aventine Hills, where the Circus Maximus was built. By the 4th century CE, this hippodrome's permanent stands could hold 200,000 spectators. In Greece, chariot racing had been a sport of rich men, but in Rome the sport involved companies distinguished by their colors: white, red, blue, and green. In the reign of Augustus, there were 12 races a day. By Flavius's reign, the number rose to 100, from daybreak until sundown, the length of races being shortened to accommodate the larger number. The sport had professional racing officials, starting chutes, disputes at law, accusations of doping horses, widespread gambling, spectators wore their favorite company's color, and riots. The chariot disappeared as a military vehicle, and chariot racing ended with the fall of Rome in the 4th century. Modern harness racing did not begin to evolve until early in the 19th century. Early history. As early as 1554, the fastest of 3,000 horses at a horse fair in Valkenburg in Holland competed in trotting matches. The Golden Whip, Holland's most famous trotting event, was first run in 1777 at Soestdijk. About the same time, Alexei Count Orlov began to develop a powerful trotting strain at his stud farm in Russia. From his stallion bars came the Orlov Trotter that became the foundation of Russian trotting stock. England's Norfolk Trotter, which emerged as a breed around 1750, was purely a road horse, but its speed led to its being used for road racing as a diversion for its owners. Most of its matches were trotting a given distance within a specific time. Trotting in North America also had its heritage in road racing, but in the early 19th century there were trotting tracks in the United States. Yankee trotted a mile over the track in Harlem, New York, in 1806 in 2 minutes 59 seconds. This time was lowered to 2 minutes 48 and a half by an unnamed trotting gelding from Boston at the Hunting Pack track in Philadelphia in 1810. By mid-century, harness racing also thrived at county fairs in the United States and agricultural fairs in eastern and central Canada. By 1840, trotting was an organized sport in New England, and a new era was underway. In 1871, the Grand Circuit, originally known as the Quadrilateral Trotting Combination, was established and grew from 4 to 23 tracks. In 1879, the Standardbred horse was established in the United States, based on a standard of time performance, 2 minutes 30 seconds for 1 mile. The creation and evolution of the Standardbred horse and that breed's impact on the world trotting rested in the propensity of the English thoroughbred stallion Messenger, imported to Philadelphia in 1788. He became both a major contributor to the American thoroughbred through his undefeated grandson American Eclipse, but also immortal for harness racing as a sire of thoroughbred runners that became trotting stallions. 10 of his sons became leading trotting sires in the early 19th century, and his great-grandson Hambletonian, foaled in 1849, sired 1,331 sons and daughters between 1851 and 1875, and obliterated all other strains of the trotting horse in the United States. He founded a line so dominant that all American standardbreds after him and many trotters in the rest of the world can be traced directly to him. Worldwide development. Trotting spread rapidly, being introduced to France in 1836. In Italy, there had been cart racing as early as 1808, but the introduction of French blood stock made it much more popular, as it did in Belgium and Holland. Sweden began harness racing in the 1880s, and Austria and Germany began late in the century. Only in Great Britain did it not take hold. U.S. stock was introduced to Australia and New Zealand, but real popularity there only came in the 20th century. As American trotting moved from the county and agricultural fairs to regular harness racing tracks, such champions as Lady Suffolk, nicknamed the Old Gray Mare, Flora Temple, the bobtail mare of the well-known song Camptown Races, the legendary Goldsmith Maid and Dexter, and especially the popular Maud S, led to extremely active European and worldwide interest in American breeding stock. A rival of Lady Suffolk, the gelding Americus, had made a highly successful invasion against English road trotters in the 1850s, and in the same decade the trotting mares Lady Pierce and Miss Belle had been exported to France, where they both raced well. Lady Pierce produced a line that led to Fuchsia, the greatest early trotting progenitor of the French breed. As the 19th century ended, American bloodstock was introduced into virtually all trotting nations of the world. In the 1890s, 2,000 American Standardbreds had been exported by 1898, and 3,000 by 1903. The American influence was to remain a dominant factor. Only in France and Russia was there resistance. The Orlovs remained dominant in Russia. The French had established their own breeds in the strong half-bloods of Normandy. The French closed their stud book to foreign horses in 1937. The arrival of the Big Four, Matty Hunter, Sleepy Tom, Rowdy Boy, and Lucy, in the 1870s, the coming of the first 2-minute harness horse, the Pacer Star Pointer in 1897, and the overwhelming popularity of Dan Patch in the early years of the 20th century did much to foster the popularity of pacers. The sulky, the modern harness racing vehicle developed from a single-seat pleasure conveyance. Earlier racing had used carts. In its final form, it is little more than a U-shaped shaft mounted on 2 wheels with a seat at the end of the U. When it was introduced in harness racing early in the 19th century, it weighed about 125 pounds, but by the 1870s it had been reduced to 46 pounds. The addition of ball bearings and pneumatic tires in the 1880s and of bicycle wheels in the 1890s established the present form, though there have been refinements. The driver's seat was lowered. When in 1903, the trotter Lou Dillon broke the 2-minute mile barrier. His record was exceeded by only 4 horses through 1969. In the preceding 58 years, the record had been successively lowered by a half-minute. Lou Dillon's sulky weighed 25 pounds. Standardbred, breed of horse developed in the United States in the 19th century and used primarily for harness racing. The foundation sire of this breed was the English thoroughbred Messenger, imported to the United States in 1788. His progeny, of great trotting capacity, were bred with other breeds and types, especially the Morgan, to produce speedy trotters and pacers. Messenger's great-grandson, Hambletonian, was an outstanding standardbred sire whose descendants now dominate the breed. Possessed of considerable stamina and endurance, standardbreds closely resemble thoroughbreds but are usually smaller and have longer and lower bodies, flatter ribs, and heavier bones. Height and weight vary considerably, but average 15 to 16 hands and 900 to 1,000 pounds. Bay is the most common color for standardbreds, but brown, black, chestnut, or gray are also found. The name standardbred originated in the early development of the breed, when horses were registered in the official stud book. Wallace's American Trotter Register, first published in 1871. If they could meet certain standards of speed, such as trotting a mile in 2.5 minutes. The official history of the breed dates from the establishment in 1871 of the National Association of Trotting Horse Breeders, which was succeeded by the American Trotting Register Association, now the U.S. Trotting Association. Robot Unicorn Attack is an endless-running video game Spritenin Media Games on February 4th, 2010. In the first week after its release, the game garnered 1 million plays. Erasure's song, Always, was a main part of the original game. Following Robot Unicorn Attack, Adult Swim released 3 follow-ups, titled Heavy Metal, Christmas Edition, and Evolution. As part of the Robot Unicorn Attack series, a sequel was developed and released by Pickpock for iOS and Android on April 25, 2013, and July 12, 2013, respectively. Robot Unicorn Attack Forever, a third game rendered in full 3D, was released April 27, 2017 for iOS. Gameplay. Robot Unicorn Attack is a side-scrolling platform game with gameplay that speeds up as it progresses. The player controls a robotic unicorn and aims to prolong gameplay without falling off the stage, crashing into the edges of platforms, or colliding into crystal stars without dashing through them. Jumps and dashes can be chained together while the unicorn is airborne. Points are earned during playtime by collecting pixies and by destroying crystal stars by dashing through them. Consecutive collection of pixies or crystal stars adds progressively higher incremental scores to the total. Upon missing a pixie or star, the increment resets. The player has 3 lives, referred to as wishes, and the sum of the scores from each life counts for the player's total score. Legacy and preservation. Alongside Cannabate from 2009, Robot Unicorn Attack is frequently cited as a foundational title that popularized the endless runner genre, distinguishing itself with a camp aesthetic and the prominent use of Erasure's 1994 pop ballad, Always. While the game spawned successful mobile ports, these were later delisted from digital storefronts following broader catalog removals by publisher Adult Swim Games, rendering the app versions largely inaccessible to new players. Consequently, the original Flash version remains the primary means of accessing the title, preserved on authorized web game portals such as Crazy Games, through emulation technology. We're looking at a set that was one of my original childhood sets. Since I was a horse girl, you know I had to have those sets that had a horse. Well, the less expensive ones anyway. Most of my original sets, the white pieces tend to have the typical discoloration from being left in sunlight on our enclosed porch that was all windows. Maybe after I gather all the missing pieces from all my other retro sets, I'll do a batch of peroxide with UV light to bring them back to white. Total build time today, 24 minutes, 54 seconds. Which means you could watch an episode of My Little Pony, the original series, from 1987. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. Remember to like, subscribe, share, ring that bell, all the things for the YouTubes. Thank you.